I'm continuing my discussion of classified information, the Mar-a-Lago raid, and whether the Biden DOJ is correct that they get to classify documents as secret or not, classified or not. They get to keep those documents that they classify as classified outside the purview of the so-called special master who is being appointed to review these documents. Now, interestingly, the Trump lawyers point out in their brief that President Obama, this is the little bit of an irony, Obama signed an executive order laying out clearly the parameters for who controls classified information. And according to that executive order signed by Obama, the president and the president alone has absolute authority to declassify any information at his or her discretion. Number two, the president can decide himself whether a document is personal or presidential. In other words, the personal documents are documents that Trump gets to keep. The presidential documents are documents that go to the archives. But who decides whether a document is one or the other? And the answer is Trump is the ultimate decider. And if this is true, it basically blows the whole rationale for the FBI raid out of the water. It takes something that is fully under Trump's discretion and control and tries to make it sound that because Biden is the president now, Biden has the say and the Biden administration gets to decide what is classified, where it belongs. Trump is just sort of like a normal private citizen and he has no authority whatsoever, even under documents produced in his own administration. And this, says the Trump lawyers in their brief, is complete nonsense. Now, there's a final point I want to emphasize here, and that is that the Biden DOJ is making the point that the government will suffer irreparable harm, in other words, harm to national security, if the court rules against them, and if the court basically says that these documents have got to be turned over to the special master. The Biden DOJ goes, what about if these documents contain vital information concerning future threats to America? This could harm our national security in the future. And the Trump team in its legal brief makes an important distinction. They make a distinction between future dangers to national security. Well, that's one thing. And whether or not a crime has been committed in the past. Let's remember that the point of the raid is to look for evidence of a crime. Now, obviously, if you're looking for evidence of a crime, the crime would have to have been committed at some point in the past. So, says the Trump team, we have two separate matters. Was, in fact, a crime committed in the past at some time, as reflected in the information in these documents? And a separate issue completely. Do these documents contain any information that pose a future danger to America's national security? Now, for a little moment of realism, A, these documents are boxed. B, they are in a locked storage with a double lock at the insistence of the FBI. C, let's remember, I mean, Debbie and I have now been to Mar-a-Lago, 3 or 4 times. The place is guarded by the Secret Service. So we're talking about a highly guarded facility. It's not exactly that these documents are available for general display or they're being handed out to guests or they're being made available to the public. Not at all. So the point here is that the plausibility that the United States is facing some dire threat posed by these documents, this is the kind of gobbledygook. The government always does this whenever they want absolute sway over something. No, national security is at risk. I don't believe a word of it, and you shouldn't either. The important point here is that this was all done under the pretext of trying to search for a crime. Trump is entitled to not only his own civil rights and his own protections as an individual, he's entitled to all the presidential rights of being able to exercise a sort of complete sway over this material that came out of his administration. So we're going to see how all of this develops, but it looks to me like this is a pretty strong case put forward by the Trump lawyers that undercuts the basic rationale for the confiscation and for the search.